was the single largest percentage of those denials? What type of professional? Want to take a guess?
Uh, Architects?
Lawyers.
You're watching the Spotlight Network, starring Hollywood's newsman,
And if you were just
Logan
to
Crawford.
investigators, they now believe a single member.
He works with TV and film legends. And now, Logan's shining the spotlight on the world's top emerging authors and creators.
International were abducted.
This is Spotlight with Logan Crawford, streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV.
I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're diving into the world of insurance with industry expert Frederick J. His latest work is called Claims-Made Insurance, the policy that changed the industry. It is essential reading for professionals and policyholders alike. With decades of real-world experience, the author unpacks the complexities of claims-made policies, how they evolved, how they work, and why they matter now more than ever before. Whether you're a broker, underwriter, or just trying to protect your business, this book is your roadmap to avoiding costly mistakes and mastering modern liability coverage. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Frederick, thanks so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's quite a gamble because the fastest way to clear a room is to say, we're here to talk about insurance.
Exactly. So let's start out by breaking down some of the language for the folks at home who are not in the insurance industry. What exactly is a claims-made insurance policy?
It's an excellent question, and it's great that we are going to start with that. When you buy insurance, whether you're buying auto liability insurance or homeowner or condo insurance, you get liability insurance as well as part of that, or hopefully you do. That protects you from lawsuits when people slip and fall on your premises, or you accidentally run a red light. You thought you could make it or whatever, and you hit somebody, or you didn't see the other car turning right, and then same thing. Those policies are written on what's called an occurrence basis, where the accident must take place during the policy term. So it's like your first reaction was, thank goodness I just renewed my auto insurance, it's in place. And one of the reasons why that works so well, as far as it goes, is because when you commit an error, when you run the red light, when you fail to see the other car, turning right in front of you, or braking quickly, or you forgot to notice that sprinkler heads were still popped up in your lawn and somebody could trip on them. Yeah. That's a mistake you've made, where normally the accident gives rise to immediate injury. Mm-hmm. You may not know how badly the injury may be, because sometimes it may take time, what's called develop, but still, somebody's injured immediately. You know it, they know it, and it won't be long before you get a letter or whatever from a lawyer. And so that makes perfect sense. It doesn't always work that way, however. Mm-hmm. And this is where professionals come into play. When an attorney commits a mistake, he may not know it, his client may not know it, and it may take several years before it rears its ugly little head. It may be doing your will, and they mess up on a tax issue, and you're not going to know about it until you're dead. And unfortunately, that could be the day, or it could be 30 or 40 years from now.
Right.
And so the problem is, with occurrence policies, it's easier for the actuaries to close the books, and they usually go out 5 years. Mm-hmm. With professionals, they would do the same thing, but it wasn't accurate. Mm-hmm. Another good example of that would be an architect who makes a mistake on the load factor of a pedestrian bridge over a major highway, or maybe a major thing at an airport going from the parking lot into the terminal. Nobody's going to know until that thing collapses. Mm-hmm. That could be 10, 15, 20 years.
Right.
So number one, from the professional perspective, if their policy was written on an occurrence basis back in those days, in the early 1970s, that would be the date they committed the mistake, not the date that the injury arises.
Right.
So now they're going to have to keep every single policy they ever purchased in storage.
Hmm.
And they're going to have to keep their files in storage too. Otherwise, what documents do they have to show? Oh, no, we got it right. There was some other, it was a construction defect problem, not our design.
Right.
If they don't have their files, what do they do then?
Right.
So as the book says, in 1964, and it might have been earlier, but that's never been documented. The idea was, let's make the policy be triggered when the third party, the injured party, the client, whomever, first makes the claim against you during the policy term. Problem solved. And the theory was, once that policy expires, you don't have to worry about there being any more claims coming against it. So from an actuarial perspective, it provided a lot of certainty. And when these things first started getting introduced in the 1970s and it started to get some traction, they didn't even define the word claim in those policies, number one. And number two, some carriers did both.
Yeah.
I know an insurance company that wrote both lawyers' malpractice insurance on an occurrence basis and claims made. Which one do you think was cheaper? Claims made policy.
Right.
It saved money. It was good for the insured. It was good for the insurer. And then it evolved from there. And, initially it was, all you had to do, but the claim had to be first made against you during the policy term. And then, of course, that assumes you didn't know about it when you signed the application, when you filled it out. You did not know you committed an error, and you weren't aware of anybody making any noise that they were going to sue you. That was the only requirement. You had to certify, I'm not aware of any mistakes. I'm not aware of anybody wanting to sue me. And that was it. And it took on life from its own now. That was the only condition. Now we got 5.
Right.
Policies have gotten very complicated. Starting in the 1980s, insurance companies started to define the word claim, but there was no uniformity to it. You're going to have different policies, different definitions of claim. It creates its own problems. And it's gotten more complicated ever since. Yeah.
What inspired you to write this book now?
Well, over the years, since 1990, I've published maybe written maybe 11 articles, but each one of those articles was on a different segment or problem. And I never took a global look at the whole thing and tried to put it all together. And so that was reason number one. And number two, the precursor to the book was an article I did in 2023, and it was published by the International Risk Management Institute. And it was a very in-depth article, but it dealt with only one problem. It dealt with what's called the claims-made trigger, triggering the policy. And I looked at 224 appellate decisions where coverage had been denied because of some mistake made by the policyholder in not reporting the claim on time, or not disclosing it on their application, or not taking advantage of what I call the safety net in the policy. I mean, there's now 5 different things you have to worry about as far as triggering the policy. And it was like 224, really. And from my perspective, maybe a drop in the bucket, but what was really interesting about it was the class of policyholder. I mean, you got architects, you got engineers, you've got, insurance brokers and real estate brokers, and, architects and engineers, I think I mentioned accountants, et cetera. All these different professionals buying these policies, including directors and officers, corporate managers, corporate C-suite coverages, buying these policies. And yet, why is it they can't seem to report their claim on time? Or why is it they can't disclose on their application, yes, something's going on? What's wrong with this picture? And who would you like to guess was the single largest percentage of those denials? What type of professional? Want to take a guess?
Architects?
Lawyers.
28,
I think it was 28% or 26% of those 24 decisions were law firms. And probably ego problems. Oh, I don't want to admit I made a mistake. Nothing's happened yet. Or we can try and fix this. We'll try and move to get the default set aside, and then we'll be okay.
Right.
You try and start fixing a problem, that's when you have to report it to the insurance company and say, we have a problem. And you report it into what I call the safety net. They still haven't,
Mhm.
the third party still hasn't made a claim against you, but you are aware that they could. You can trigger the policy under the safety net language right then and there, and they don't.
Hmm.
And then they sign an application that says we're not aware of anything. Well, that's fraud. That's
Right.
misrepresentation. So
And lawyers, if
since that article,
anyone, have a responsibility to know that they have a potential claim against them, right?
pardon you, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you do know, I mean, certainly a lot of times you don't know. First of all, you don't
Right.
want to think you don't even know somebody's alleging you made an error. You may
Mhm.
not have made an error, and you certainly have no control over when the claimant's going to do something against you. So there are plenty of situations where you're clean. But on the cases on these 224, no, they were all solid denials. And to have law firms being the worst contributor is really something else. The
Yeah.
second largest group of policyholders were directors and officers.
Huh.
But why? Why? Because the
Amazing.
director gets sued. What does he do? He turns it over to corporate counsel.
Right.
So those two professional types were responsible for about 47% of all the denials. Just those.
Amazing.
And so they're like, there's really something wrong here.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't just a coverage trigger issue, because I've written several articles on those problems. It was like, let's take a look at the whole darn thing. And so I did the book.
Yeah.
It was geared towards professionals, the policyholders. Now, granted, it's of great use to insurance brokers and claims people and people in the industry for certain, for no other reason for training purposes. But that's the consumer that needs it, because when you think about all the law firms and all the accountants and all the architects that are out there and all the medical professionals and allied medical professionals like x-ray technicians, whatever, you're talking millions of policyholders. Add to that corporate C-suite coverages, director and officer liability, employment practice liability for sexual harassment and wrongful termination, discrimination lawsuits as well. And of course, what's called fiduciary liability for companies that have employee benefit programs. They goof on those. All those types of policies are written on a claims-made basis.
Hmm.
And almost every business of any worth is buying those three coverages. So we're talking millions of policyholders all over the United
Wow.
States and elsewhere buying claims-made policies, and they're absolutely clueless.
Yeah.
And then on
Frederick,
top
let
of
me
that,
ask you,
sure,
let me ask you this. What trends in liability insurance should people be paying attention to?
just about everything these days,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you why. In 37 states, insurance agents and brokers have no duty to give you advice. It's called the order taker standard of care. And the only time that they are obligated to give you advice, to recommend and make recommendation and work with you, is if they hold themselves out as experts or specialists, if they agree to do a risk management review for a fee in addition to the commission the insurance company might pay them, or they misrepresent coverage. Other than that, and some states, mostly in the East Coast, and the only West Coast states that adopted it so far as Washington, is that they've had a long-standing relationship with you where they've gained intimate knowledge as to what your needs may be. And but that's not a nationwide trend. 37 states follow the order taker standard, which means they have no more obligation to advise you than your server at your favorite restaurant.
Hmm.
And that's part of the
Amazing.
problem. It's all kind of designed to put the onus on the consumer. The problem with that is, let's not forget, businesses who would like to, avoid any liability and avoid any accountability, guess what? They're consumers too.
Right.
And the order taker standard is a major problem. New Jersey, for instance, has codified that insurance producers are held to what's called a fiduciary standard,
That's
which
what I
is
would
no
think it
different than
should
your
be.
lawyer.
Right.
But in reality, when the order taker standard be like, well, you go see your doctor and he says, well, hi, Logan, what's wrong with you today? And how would you like me to treat you? You're supposed to know.
Right.
And the consumer, they're supposed to know about the intricacies of insurance, especially when today businesses may need to buy upwards of 15 to 20 different policies to cover all these different hazards that didn't exist 50 years ago when I first started in this industry.
Hmm.
You didn't have to worry about internet fraud back in 1970.
Right, exactly.
You didn't have to worry about that stuff, or environmental liability, or employment practice liability, and on and on and on and so forth. But all these policies are written on a claims-made basis, which makes sense, but they're very complicated, and you really have to know your stuff. And this is why I wrote the book for the consumer, and as well why it's written in a, hopefully at least the reviews have said in a manner that makes it easy to understand.
Yeah.
This stuff is really complicated, and I'll give you another good example of it. Major corporations, they buy towers of liability insurance, and so there'll be all these policies, and especially if they're excess over a claims made form, I can guarantee you that just about every single layer, all the way up to how many hundreds of millions they may be buying, will have a different definition of the word claim.
Exactly. Yeah. The ambiguity of its therein on its own is enough to make a layperson crazy. I think you've done a great job in this book to break it down, to make it simple, make it understandable, make it digestible, and everyone from insurance company insiders to policyholders to business people to those lawyers who often get the claims denied, and the CEOs who get the claims denied. I think this book is a great service. It is called Claims Made Insurance, the policy that changed the industry. It is a vital read for professionals navigating today's evolving liability landscape.
Let me enhance that with you.
Yep.
Harvard University, USC had claims denied for that very reason.
Wow.
And just recently, and now you got new ones. You got the Crumble case, and you've got this new lawsuit for harassment in Los Angeles involving a major producer. Same problem. They knew about the problem before they signed the application. Then the claim comes in, and insurance companies have denied coverage. That within the last 48 hours.
Yeah. It's sort of like those health insurance policies that get sent to your house. They have 4 simple questions. Do you have cancer? Do you have heart disease? Have you been diagnosed with this or that? If you lie on one of those questions or mislead on one of those questions, your policy is just going to be denied, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the same thing's true with claims made policies. Yeah, it's amazing. You're really shining a light on a important part of the insurance landscape, and we appreciate that, Frederick. And I appreciate your time here today, and it's breaking it all down for us. Thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure.
And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time. This time, until next time, on Spotlight.